You're listening to Me and Paranormal You with your host, Ryan Singer. It's more fun to believe. Third year bonus.
And we are launching into the program. We don't have a second to spare. I've got information to share with you that does not allow us to spare any time. If you may care, if I may dare. Where was I? Welcome to Me and Paranormal You. This is your buddy Ryan Singer. This is another 30-year bonus. This is 3 30-year bonuses in a row, which quite frankly is a rarity on this show anymore. And, you know, the onus falls completely on me. I have been running around like a headless chicken. Very recently, and I haven't had time to sit down, lock in with some people that I've been chatting about chatting. So yeah, I haven't had time to do that. I've had other Zoom calls for some exciting projects and other things we're working on. For example, I had a Zoom call with Dr. Jeff Tarrant and Carolyn Bridges the other day, planning out some things for our October trip. When we're in Florida doing some investigation stuff. Now, excuse me here for 1 second. I'm drinking sparkling water, so it's a little bubbly. I know you're probably thinking, like, are you off the DC? I got to tell you, I'm not completely off the DC, but Diet Coke, for those of you who are new to the program, and every once in a while, I'll mess with a CZ, a Coke Zero, or a DDP, a Diet Dr. Pepper. Anyway, the point is, I do have a DRB over here, a Diet Root Beer that I was, having earlier after the gym. It was a treat after the gym. Now, am I juiced up? Am I jacked up? Can you tell by how quickly I'm talking that I have an artificial sweetener high happening right now? Why do I feel like Jeff Goldblum? Am I high from an artificial sweetener? Are the dinosaurs real? So what we need to understand here is it's on me. So if you don't like the 30-year bonuses, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why you wouldn't like them. They're fun for me to do, and so I hope that shines through in the audio, like an audio shine. Oh, that's a fun name of a new podcast I'm going to launch called Audio Shine, starring Thaddeus X. No, okay, Thaddeus, you've got too many podcasts we're doing already. So today I do want to discuss some things. I want to talk about the nonlinear nature of paranormal investigations. Coinciding with the overlapping of any paranormal investigation that you might undertake. And if I would argue here, I'm going to lay out an argument tonight. And I don't know, quite frankly, I don't know how the blanket unfolds. I don't know how many folds there are in this blanket as I will begin to unfold it, because it's kind of occurring to me in the moment. Isn't that the beauty of what conversation is about, and thoughts and stream of consciousness? I am going to be, not so carefully, it turns out, laying out my argument for why paranormal investigations do not obey the rules of time, space, or people, right? Specifically, paranormal investigations do not obey. They do not obey these rules that we think to confine and label. They are anti-structure. Remember the anti-structure? I'm just remembering it now. I can't believe I pulled that word out. That's well done, chap. You kind of have a very slippery, greasy at best grasp of the things you've been talking about for nearly 12 years every week. Well, thank you, backhanded complimentarian. So I appreciate that backhanded compliment. So. Bravo! You've come up with a name for me. Yes, I have. BHC, for short. Backhanded complimentarian. BHC, where I come from. So I'm going to lay this out, and it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be a little bit messy, and paranormal investigations, with a small caveat, if they are investigations that are more than a one-off. And I think this would apply to one-offs as well, but you don't have the data set you don't have the amount of information and data to be able to easily confirm through, circumstantial happenings that the one-off investigations aren't the same way. Now, I do believe that they are, and more than likely they are. But so what do I even mean by any of this? Well, we're going to get into that. I'm going to have a new car here in like a matter of days, by the way. So I'm frazzled. I'm flustered. You know me. Well, maybe you don't. If you don't know me, there are fewer things in life I enjoy more than walking a car lot. I don't know what it is about walking a car lot, but it makes me feel rich. I feel like when I'm on the car lot, I feel like I can buy any car I want there. That's the attitude I have when I'm walking around. And meanwhile, I have shoes with holes in them and tattered clothes, and no salesperson has ever approached me while I'm on a lot. I always have to do the approaching. That's not true. I'm exaggerating for effect here. But I love walking a car lot. There's something, it makes me feel so powerful. Like I have dominion over these metal beasts. That's not how I feel, but I do enjoy it. It's good exercise. It's a great imagination exercise. You imagine all the different lives you could be leading, specific to the cars that you envision yourself in. And I'm going to be honest with you, I try to get inside every single car that I want to look at. Some of them, about 50-50, they're locked or unlocked. You're supposed to get in there. Who's buying a car? Who's even looking at a car and not snuggling in? I put the back seats down. I make sure I can lay down comfortably for camping. I play with the gadgets. I move the chairs up and down and things like that. I'm not breaking anything. I'm not a monster. But I'll tell you what, I get in there. I get comfortable. You know what I mean? I don't make car salesmen lay down with me in the back to make sure it'd be comfortable for two, but I have done that in the past. Now, that was a different time in my life. Okay, so please don't judge me too harshly on that accord. I don't even know if that makes sense, what I just said, but on that accord. Very good. You're using words that you don't know again. We love when you do that. Oh, the backhanded complimentarian. BHC. I don't like this character, and I'd prefer if Nigel puts you on the do not fly list. So we're gonna see if we can do that. I've got Operation Trojan Horse by John A. Keel here, the classic breakthrough study of UFOs. There is something interesting I want to read from that. It's a summarization of a very famous story. Anyway, it ties into the subject matter today, even though, can I tell you about this car though? Can I tell you about that car? We'll get into the car stuff maybe later. Maybe actually do some paranormal content. But hey, this is just life, man. I tell you, there's nothing like it, Okay, I don't know what that made sense, but I feel like Todd kind of came through halfway, and we love you, and we miss you, Todd. So I'm going to read from page 87, if I can find my reading glasses. At least I had the page marked, so I didn't have to put you through that. We're talking about, one of the, this is from the chapter, The Grand Deception, Operation Trojan Horse. And, there's some kind of, some sordid tales of sightings and such. Let's just get into it here, and let's see if we can do John Keel justice with a read. One of the most celebrated cases of the period, the story of Alexander. Do you want me to give you some context on? We can come back for that. One of the most celebrated. You know what? It actually makes sense to give you that context beforehand. I just want to make sure that I'm getting this correctly. This is it's late 19th century, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm sure, and if I am mistaken, please someone correct me. Later. Or whatever. Oh, by the way, thank you to the new patrons. We're going to do another live stream here as soon as I get back to my... actually, we'll do it before the end of August. Never mind. We'll talk more about that later. One of the most celebrated cases of the period. You know what? Actually, hold on a second. Sorry, I'm not. This is almost kind of turning into a bit now, where I keep interrupting myself. Maybe I'll do story time. Right? I'm just going to do some. Actually, if I'm going to put up a poll on Patreon, and if the patrons have a short story or something that wouldn't take me too long to do. I'll do an audio book of it. Okay, so or maybe I'll just put up if people just want me to audio book things they write. We'll see if I don't know. That seems ridiculous when I'm saying it out loud. For the record. Okay, back to the book. Operation Trojan Horse. I swear this ties in. I'm making promises that I certainly will keep. I'm a promise keeper, but not one of those misogynistic guys. One of the most celebrated cases of the period, the story of Alexander. I combined Alexander and Hamilton. Have you ever done that? Have you ever just been like, I don't have time to say both names? That's what my Twitter handle is, Rising, and also Instagram. Because I probably won't be on Twitter very long. Okay, so here we go. One of the most celebrated cases of the period, the story of Alexander Hamilton's cow, has been widely reprinted in practically every UFO book extant, and we will therefore just summarize it here. Hamilton claimed that he and his family saw a cigar-shaped object swoop down over his farm near Vernon, Kansas, sometime in the middle of April. It was occupied by 6 of the strangest beings I ever saw, he declared. They were jabbering together, but we could not understand a syllable they said. He described the object as being 300 feet long with transparent glass carriage underneath. Quote, it was brilliantly lighted within, and everything was clearly visible. There were 3 lights, one like an immense searchlight and 2 smaller, one red, the other green. The large one was susceptible of being turned in every direction. Every part of the vessel, which was not transparent, was of a dark reddish color. A great turbine wheel, about 30 feet in diameter, revolved underneath. As his little group watched, the machine began to buzz and rise upward. Then it paused directly over a 3-year-old heifer, which apparently was caught on the fence. Going to her, Hamilton said, we found a cable about half an inch in thickness, made of the same red material, fastened in a slip knot around her neck, one end passing up to the vessel and tangled in the wire fence. He tried to free the calf, but couldn't. So he cut the wire and watched helplessly as the ship and calf rose slowly into the air and sailed away. The next day, the branded hide, legs, and head of the animal were found on the property of Lank Thomas, who lived about 4 miles away. Farmer Hamilton not only signed an affidavit, but he collected the town's most prominent citizens, including the local sheriff, justice of peace, doctor, and postmaster, and had them all sign a statement testifying that they had known him for 15 to 30 years, and that for truth and veracity we have never heard his word questioned, and that we do verily believe his statement to be true and correct. Yates Center, Kansas, the Farmer's Advocate, April 23, 1897. Keel goes on to say this case is significant not only because of the detailed description of the transparency of the object, but because it was the first of a long line of cattle rustling reports concerning UFOs. The theft and mutilation of dogs, cattle, and horses have become unpleasantly commonplace in flap areas. Texas had more than its share of sightings during 1897, and many of them were concentrated in the region where John Martin had reported seeing a flying saucer in 1878. This was April 22, 1897. Mr. John M. Barclay conversed, allegedly, with a man from an oblong machine with wings and brilliant lights, which appeared much brighter than electrical lights. He had been awakened about 11 p.m. by his furiously barking dog, and when he looked outside, he saw the object hovering stationary about 15 feet above the ground. It circled a few times and landed in a nearby pasture. Barclay grabbed his rifle and went to investigate. When he was about 30 yards from the ship, he was met by, quote, this is a quote, by an ordinary mortal, end quote, who asked him to put his gun aside. Who are you? Mr. Barclay asked. Never mind about my name. Call it Smith. the man replied. I want some lubricating oil and a couple of cold chisels if you can get them, and some bluestone. I suppose the sawmill hard by has 2 former articles. What am I reading here? Am I having a stroke? I suppose the sawmill hard by has 2 former articles, and the telegraph operator has the bluestone. Here's a $10 bill. Take it and get us those articles and keep the change for your trouble. Mr. Barclay reportedly asked him, What have you got down there? Let me go and see it. No, the man said quickly. We cannot permit you to approach any nearer, but do as we request, and your kindness will be appreciated, and we will call you some future day and reciprocate your kindness by taking you on a trip. So Barclay went and did this. Anyway, and the conversation goes on. They talk about how they're going to go to Greece and all kinds of things. We're talking about, what's interesting is 1897, if I'm not mistaken, that's what I read, was around this time, it was the first of a long line of cattle rustling reports concerning UFOs. And if you remember the story of the Mothman, you also remember there was a dog involved that had gone missing from one of the first people who witnessed the alleged Mothman. I'm a little shaky on the details of that man's name, but what a beautiful area, by the way, Point Pleasant and Gallipolis. If you have the chance, please go visit. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because it ties in to what I'm saying, or it ties into this uncarefully laid plan or theory or whatever I'm calling it of the paranormal investigations. They don't care about linear time, and they definitely don't care about place, and almost as if they have a life of their own, they 100% don't care about whether or not you understand it or not. Now, this is something I've never done before, and I'm doing it now dangerously, I suppose, but I'm deciding to assign investigations their own personality types. I'm not 100% sure why I'm doing that, other than it feels like the right thing to do. So, okay, good. I did silence my phone. Sorry, I was getting distracted because my phone was kind of going bonkers over here. I think investigations. Let's just say, for the sake of this conversation, that investigations have personalities. Individual paranormal investigations have distinct personalities from one another. And it is my argument here tonight as I'm saying it. I'm hearing this for the first time as I'm saying it, by the way. This isn't something I've written down in a coffee shop and just been kind of like, brilliant, and people are like, what? What did he say? Did he say brilliant? Is he calling himself brilliant over there? And I just look and I'd be like, it's my PSL. Pumpkin spice latte. They're back, I mean, if they're not back, they're back in any moment now, because I did buy some pumpkin creamer at the grocery store for my coffee. And why am I talking like a child? Because I love it so much. That's what gets me jacked. It gets me juiced. When there's some pumpkin around, putting it into my mouth. I'm putting it in. Pumpkin goes into my body, okay? It's better than the alternative. My body into pumpkin. Keep it together. Should we keep it together? Maybe we won't. So, these investigations definitely have personality. Now I'm saying definitely. I went from being like, I can't believe I'm saying this, to they 100% have personality. And if you don't agree with me, you're a fool. You're a gosh darn fool. Why do I think they have personalities? I think, they all are distinct from one another, and they all have characteristics. And this is when it's going to get. This is when the woo-woo wild one in me comes out. They're communicating with each other. Okay, I was going to be like, okay, they talk to one another. Paranormal investigations talk to one another, or paranormal phenomena in locations. They talk to one another. They have conversations. They ask each other how their day has been. How many of the same dumb fools have come by asking the same dumb questions? And have you seen that dumb fool Ryan Singer? Has he come by there? Oh yeah, he sometimes thinks he should dance. And they say, what? And they say, oh yeah, you just have the Candlelight House. It's Matthew Jackson, my buddy, Paraholics, put out some videos of the investigations that Jeff Bodart, myself, and Matthew were doing. I'll link those. He just posted them this week. And at one point, I get straight up hazed or made fun of for dance because of my dancing. It's like I was dancing without my feet so I wouldn't shake the house to move the devices. You know, I was trying to be good about it. Anyway, we're going to be right back. If you are a patron, patreon.com/Ryan Singer. No commercials. No fuss, no muss. No muss, no fuss. Anyway, we're going to be right back. Thank you so much. $3 a month gets you no commercials, by the way. $3 a month. And the first one each month usually is commercial free. Anyway, we're going to be right back. You know, by the way, I love you. I hope you love yourself. This usually say it at the end, but I said it now. So deal with it. God, Diet Root Beer is the best. Diet Root Beer is better than root beer. Listen, artificial sweeteners are killing us. And even worse, it's probably even worse. What they're doing to us is worse than death, in fact. And I'm over here talking about how Diet Root Beer is better than regular root beer. And I stand by it. Listen, I used to put chemicals up my nose. You think I'm afraid to extol the delicious virtue of products that are bad for me? Listen, I don't live like that anymore. Thank goodness. I don't smoke. I haven't smoked. I haven't ingested nicotine of any kind. We're talking dip, vape, ciggy. Never really did cigars for over 2 years now. So I quit on my birthday 2 years ago, which, gosh, I'm a little surprised I did because, to be quite honest with you, and I've talked openly about this, quite depressed at that time in my life, and still was able to give up the thing that I thought I couldn't live without at my lowest moment, which just goes to show you don't need it. And if you're struggling out there, I would highly suggest the audiobook or the book, The Easy Way to Stop Smoking by Alan Carr. So that's what I did. I think I read it or listened to it over 35 times. It will work. It will work. I am a special case. I'm special, everybody. Everybody, I'm special. Don't you understand that? Okay, back to the program. So I'm car shopping. And we're going to get back to the personalities of paranormal locations and phenomena here in a second. But so I'm car shopping, right? And I think I've got the car because my car overheated. I'm so sorry I had to cancel these gigs in Asheville and Wilmington. I'm rescheduling it's probably going to be March, sometime in March, or at the very latest in early April. So anyway, I'm so sorry about that because my car just went kaplooey, kind of overheated. So now I've been for the last few days. I took it into the shop. It was pretty good amount of money to have it fixed, quite honestly, and almost as much as the car is worth, right? So now I'm looking at cars, and I test drove, 3 cars today. I love a test. They were all Subarus. I'm test driving. I'm a test driving fool. I will do that on my birthday sometimes. I'll just go test drive cars that I have no sense test driving. It's nonsensical. But they don't know that. They don't know that. They're like, this guy could be buying a Silverado F450 or a Corvette, right? We don't know what this guy likes. So anyway, that's what I do. It's a fun thing to do. Spend a day doing it if you're bored. Take a day off and just go test drive some vehicles. Maybe one of those new Ford Broncos, or whatever you're into. You know what I mean? Just if you've always been like, I wonder what that drives like, go test drive it. Maybe a Jeep Cherokee, go test drive it. The gas mileage is garbage. You don't want to own one of those, but you can. And also the reviews. I've been watching this guy Scotty Kilmer. He's got like 6.9 million YouTube subscribers. He's an auto mechanic who just yells about stuff. He loves Toyotas. He really does. And I got to tell you, he's not wrong. I've had two cars in the last 22 years. I've had 2 cars over that span of 2+ decades, and both of them have been a Toyota Camry. We're looking at, over 600,000 miles on those cars combined. So I'm emotionally attached to this car, and I'm realizing I'm driving back from the Fitness Planet, and I'm like I'm just looking over at the passenger seat, and I'm looking at it like it's an old friend of mine, like a lover or something. And I'm just like, and then we've decided to part ways or something. Like we're going through some separation, and I'm just like, you've been so good. And I say out loud, I found myself saying out loud, you've been so goddamn good to me. And I just hate to do it, but I need somebody new. And God, it's like, wow, is this a pattern? It's a pattern for people in life in general, I think. It's not just a Ryan Singer thing. And it's not a Ryan Singer thing, okay? We're not going to get into my personal life. I did that a couple weeks ago. That was enough. Makes me sick to think about it. To open up. No, I'm just kidding. So I look over and I start crying almost. I get teary-eyed. I get watery eyeballs as I'm saying out loud, you've been so goddamn good to me. I'm going to miss you. Thank you for taking care of me. I've put some money into you. Don't think that I haven't now. Let's remember the times that I took care of you, okay? And then, the car says, of course I do, honey. And then, I make love to the cushions. Or isn't there some show where somebody married their car or something? Anyway, I love my car, but I'm not like that kind of person. I'm not a car person. Don't let my car hear me say that. So yeah, I test drove a Forester. Used cars. I always go used cars. I'm never buying a new car. So this I test drove 3 different used Foresters. How about this? The first one I test drove, they had to jump the battery. I still test drove it. It's like the percentage of me buying a car that you have to jump it for me to test drive it is 0%, by the way. Now listen, we can replace the battery. Well, most certainly you would if I were to purchase such a vehicle that will not even drive when I try to test it. Beautiful car, good car, just had a tired little battery, probably been sitting on the lot for a month with no one test driving it. What's that tell you? I don't know what it tells you. But I will say this. Not a bad ride once it got started. Came back and there was another one right across the parking lot, the lot there. I was like, I like this other one. How about this Forester over here? It's even got the satellite radio thing. It's got the etch and sketch radio or whatever. See, I've never had a backup camera. I've never had a sunroof. I've never had, touchscreen gadgets. I've never had any of that. I'm just a nuts and bolts kind of man. You know what I mean? And, I have to crank my car to start it. Did you know that? And anyway, but this other Forester has the screen that has the satellite radio, which is great because then I can listen to my baseball games, things like that, if I decide to get satellite radio. I test drive that bad boy. And let me tell you what, panoramic sunroof. Like the whole top of the car is falling off when you open that thing. It's fucking awesome. I'm just cruising. I get on the freeway. Because when I test drive something, I test drive it. You know what I mean? I let her rip out there. Beautiful car. A little more expensive than the other one. It made me a little uncomfortable, to be quite honest with you. So here we are. Then I went down to Cincinnati and test drove another Subaru Forester. This one's even older than the other ones. Fun car. Has like a cage in the back window thing. That makes me curious about what was happening in this car, which is not a bad thing, by the way. And so I'm like, what happened? What was going on in here? They're furry handcuffs, and is this Subaru coming with some whips? What's going on? Hey, I'll pay extra if this thing's got handcuff clips in the back, just on the side walls. I'll pay extra for that. So I test drive that. I park that thing, and then it's got that noise in the engine. I don't know what that means when it goes after you stop it or whatever. It's got the little ting, 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 ting in the engine. And you could kind of smell some burn oil. But, it's an older car. It's over a decade old or whatever. But, good mileage, 135,000 miles on it or something. Not bad at all. and it's got the sunroof, and it's got the satellite radio. That's and a backup camera. That's all I want. Is a sunroof, a backup camera, and satellite radio. That's all I need. I don't need all-wheel drive. I just need good gas mileage. Because I do too much driving. Even though I'm not going to be doing the road like I was. Anyway, I've been all over the place. I have test driven. I've been going to lots at night walk. I've been a night lot walker, looking at every kind of car, watching Scotty Kilmer videos till 4:30 in the morning, and then just realizing, yeah, I test drove a Kia Sorento yesterday. Great car, very low mileage, 2016. So it's after the engine fires. So it's one of the ones you don't have to worry about. Very low mileage. Beautiful. I mean, you put the seats down, you're laying down there super. You could put a queen mattress inside that thing. It's beautiful. It's awesome. 29 miles a gallon on the highway. No sunroof. Broke my heart that there was no sunroof. Although, I might go back. It has an open recall. Broke my heart. Open recall. No remedy yet for the recall. Broke my heart. Still might buy it. I still might buy that car. Actually, you know what? I'm thinking I could go test drive that again tomorrow. See if maybe I'll drive that to a mechanic, have them take a look at it. You're allowed to do that. I've never done it, but like I said, I purchased 2 cars in the last 22 years. So, I'm not one of those people. Okay, can we get back to it? This car adventure. I'll tell you what, my therapist is going to be so damn pleased when I have a new car, so I can shut up about needing a new car, wanting a car I can camp out of, etc., sleep in, blah, 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 which is the only thing I've been talking about for 3.5 years. That and my Bigfoot experience. But other than that, it's just been that and, God, I want a car. I just want a car. It's like, shut up already. So these, let's get back to it. Paranormal investigations have personalities, the locations, the phenomena themselves. I mean, we could say that I'm personifying, and that's exactly what I'm doing. And maybe I'm going a little too woo-woo on this one, but I will say this: there is no abeyance of any kind of normal laws of time or space or whatever. It doesn't make any sense. And let me give you some tangible examples, if I may. I have been editing. I'm pretty much finished with it now. We're just waiting on the music and opening titles, which I'll probably work on tonight as I'm in bed or something, right? But that's all we need now, and caption and the transcripts, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, the movie's edited. The movie's done. Although it's far from done without the music, but you know what I mean. The heavy lifting on my end has been completed. I can move on with my life to a certain degree, which is delightful. And those close to me are very, very glad that this is the case, because I don't shut up about that or wanting a new car for the last, Anyway, I talk about what's happening in my life a lot to those close to me, and it's got to be just the worst. Anyway, so I don't know why the self-judgment there, but moving on. I'm a melodramatic kind of person. I can be overly dramatic, is what I'm saying. Can you believe that? The cattle mutilation investigation fits. The investigation at Mutilation Ranch by Greg Feynman and Mama Sue Gutierrez, with Dan Lindholm, the rancher Tom Miller, myself, and Ed Brown, also on a very cursory level, are a part of the investigation team. And, we will be going back and doing I don't need to get into the details of that necessarily at this time. I specifically am referencing the videos that Matthew Jackson put out. We were at a place called the Candlelight House and the Crump Theater, and I believe this was in January of this year. Or no, it was a year ago now. So it was a year ago in the summer. God, right? And so I went out to that area, the Columbus, Indiana area, and very funny Jeff Bodart, longtime friend of mine, stand-up comedian, He's been on the program before, makes magic wands. He's the one who stood and paused and sat there and stood there with his eyes closed at like the gas station counter to envision a winning color. And then the color came to him, and then he looks down and he buys the scratch off ticket that is that color, and he wins enough to make a down payment so he can finally buy a house. So a good chunk of money, right? That's Jeff Bodart, right? Just go back and listen to that episode. It's great. Jeff's amazing. So, 3 of us investigate this place called the Candlelight House, and then we go to the Crump Theater and we investigate that. Later that night, we have a stand-up comedy show that I was doing in the basement, and Jeff was on that show, and Matt was also on that show. Matthew Jackson also is a poet, and so he is also a performance poet. Amazing, very multi-talented, all these guys. And so, so we do a show in the basement of Viewpoint Books in Columbus, Indiana. And Deb, who is the owner, we love her. We love her deeply and forever. And Deb is the best. And if you're anywhere near Columbus, Indiana, you got to go into Viewpoint Books and you have to ask for Deb. And if she's there, you have to say, people love you. You should know that. Everyone loves you. And, let her know. So she has this beautiful like basement performance kind of area in her basement of her bookstore, where there's also books and things, right? And we do a fun little show there, have a good time that night after the investigations all day. It was a wild day. It was a really jam-packed kind of day. It was great. So, any hoodles. During the investigation at the Candlelight House and also at the Crump Theater, which is now reopened, by the way, there's crossover in investigations. There is investigation crossover from different locations, from long-term paranormal investigations that one may be taking part in. I think Eric Connor could speak to this. Matthew Jackson would 100%, because Matthew and I text about this constantly, all the time. It just blows our face off half the time when we're thinking about it. But there have been times in specifically the Columbus, Indiana, those 2 different locations, where there is a specific thing that comes through about Fitz. Fitz comes through one of the devices. We are talking about a different, we did have a name for the documentary at the time, and it was Fitz, and that comes through. And it also references cattle. So it is bonkers, right? So, but there have been other situations in the past where something will come through during an ITC session, specifically through a device like an ITC device or a ghost box or something, right? And it doesn't make any sense until a year and a half, 2 years later. Then it suddenly makes sense. Something that sounded so random and nonsensical and didn't tie into anything that's happening at that location on that specific investigation, then later makes sense. Now, is it giving a crucial piece of information that will unlock the mystery of the other investigation or even the investigation itself at that specific location, but retroactively? Not necessarily. And that would be wonderful if in fact that was. Okay, now first of all, you have to have the wherewithal and you have to have the stomach for it to be able to go back and even review past investigations and things like that. But oftentimes when you are collaborating with other people, you don't have to do all the heavy lifting yourself. Thank Zeus in Valhalla for that, right? Mighty Odin has smiled down upon us. Clench your sword close to your chest, which would be a handy cam in this case, as the mighty, brave ghost investigator goes to the great after form, right? And then Odin will take your hand and, get on the boat, jump on the ferry, let the watchman take you over. Now, 11:11, my phone lights up. What are the chances of that? And it's not even one of my woo-woo. It's not even one of my woo-woo friends. It's my buddy Alex Stone, very funny stand-up comedian out of Cincinnati. A sad day in the baseball world. Pretty much my all-time favorite baseball player now. Overtook Joe Carter probably here in the last few years. My all-time favorite baseball player, Joey Votto, officially, I'm getting emotional right now. Joey Votto has announced his retirement from professional baseball. And the Reds stuck a dagger into my heart when they didn't sign him to a contract. And he had to go to his hometown, Toronto Blue Jays. For the first time in his storied career, he was playing in a different uniform. Anyway, we're going to be right back. Patreon.com/Ryan Singer. That gets you no commercials. And we're back. And if you're a patron, we never left, really. Joey Votto, we love you in this house. We always will. Can't wait till he's managing the Cincinnati Reds, probably in another year or two, or finds his way coaching, or, hopefully stays within the organization in some way. Certain individuals' personalities transcend the sport. Joey Votto is probably the funniest baseball player who's ever lived. He is he's a Hall of Famer, and I've got a couple of his rookie cards at a PSA grading company getting graded as we speak, and I really hope they come back perfect 10s, because those are going to be cherished memorabilia in the Ryan Singer house when they do. And if not, I'll just keep trying. I just keep trying. I keep buying and trying. That's what I do, You just can't ever give up. Even if you're like me, your life just seems to be one more event where you feel you're stretched too thin or overextended after another, right? And you realize that your boundaries and your own personal boundaries about capabilities and things are actually a little bit further than you may have realized, because you've been stretched and now you're just that size. And that's what I'm going to be doing financially for this new car. That's what I'm doing just in life in general. So you just have to keep believing. You keep believing in yourself, and you keep believing in the things you're doing. And sooner or later, that egg will crack. And by the way, I did a poster contest on Instagram. If any of those people are listening, I will get around to mailing those at some point here somewhat soon, I promise. Because they knew Carry On My Wayward Son by the band Kansas. One of the most underrated bands. So, okay, let's get back to the program. There have been situations when, like I was saying specifically right before the commercial, and the reminder of Joey Votto at 11:11. If you're not doing something alone, it takes a village. It really, truly does. I've been fortunate and blessed, I suppose, is a word that we could use, to have become good friends with so many brilliant investigators in the world of the paranormal. And they, quite frankly, they do all of the heavy lifting, and they make me look good. Most of the situations where we're together, they make me look damn good, because they're doing all the work, right? So I love that. And don't tell them I said that. Now, I'm good at bringing people together. Okay, I can do that. Now, once everybody's together, do the magic, friends. And, I'm not going to sell myself short. I do have some capabilities as an investigator, but here we go. So I've got these friends who do the heavy lifting. Now, there have been multiple situations and multiple different investigations. We're talking about my investigation, The Bridge, that takes place at Post Town and also Mount Shasta. We're talking about Fitz, the investigation at Mutilation Ranch, and specifically we're talking also about the Florida investigation, which doesn't really have a name, like a fancy name, right? It doesn't have that at this point. And what will be called, who knows, right? That's not really important, even though it's one of the things I usually obsess about very early on in something. Like writing my memoir, that's comedy/paranormal. It's called Shapeshifter. I had the name before I ever wrote a word, right? I was thinking about the cover of the book before I even wrote the first chapter. It's like, well, maybe write the book before you start worrying about design for cover design, which, by the way, is on cue as the next big project that Milkshake Town, which is just me, that's my company, is that's my next big project that I'm undertaking, is finishing the paranormal comedy memoir. So I have like a 1.5 draft. I've written it, I started editing it, now I need to update it because there's other things that have happened and make it more up to date. And then boom. And then sometime next year that book's going to come out. Now, one way or the other, I'll self-publish it. I don't need someone to be like, this is good enough for us. We think that it's good. We'll put it out for you. I don't need that. I'll put it out myself. And if it resonates, it resonates. Okay? I don't need the approval of the publishing world. Although I'll take it. I'll take it. You want to give me a check? I got a pen in my hand ready to endorse and then digital deposit that check. All right now, publishing house, place peoples. Okay. Anyway, buying a car makes you just freak out and want to how do I make all the money in the world right now? So anyway, what's happening now is we have had crossover in these 3 investigations specifically at different times, where I have specifically been inside Post-Town Elementary School and had something pop up where I'm like, what the hell? This has something to do with this. Or, this has something to do with Florida. This has something, blah, 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 blah. And what's the common denominator? Well, I kind of gave it away. Who's the common denominator? Me, right? Or Matthew and the long-term investigations he's doing outside of the Florida or the bridge. Eric Connor, what are the long distance running that we're doing on certain investigations? Those things have a life of their own. And things have happened in the past. This is where it starts to get confusing, and I'm not going to really be able to put my finger on it, but you're going to have to just trust me that it's true. And someday I will remember it and specifically, or be able to find it to point to it for you. But what happened is there was a time during an investigation, I believe it was, because the bridge I started that at the Post-Town. That was before we filmed, so that was 2021. Okay, now, and so that was 2021. Florida happened in 2019. I started interviewing Greg during the pandemic, actually. So they all kind of coincide with one another. The point is, the Florida thing was the one-off in 2019 for 5 days, 5 nights. I never thought I would go back after being terrified there. And alas, here we are. I'll be making our 3rd week-long trip there in this year alone, here in about a month and a half, or in about 2 months. So there have been things that have happened, that have come through the devices, that reference an investigation that hasn't even started yet. An investigation that hasn't even been an idea to have been booked, planned, conceived, etc. So what I'm saying here is, with this non-linear nature of the personalities of the phenomena and the specific investigations, they're communicating with each other and through each other seemingly, and because there's connective tissue and all this, everything is connected, right? So I implore you, now, okay, different strokes for different folks is the saying. Different personality types engage with phenomena differently. Just the way we learn differently, we like different foods, we have different preferences. I love a Subaru Forester. You might love a Subaru Outback, right? I get that. But I implore you, if you are serious about the paranormal and you are a researcher, and you've just never put yourself into the investigation side of things. We've talked about this. They all feed into one another. Eventually, it's like you're not going to be able to help it. You can't, like anybody who waits tables at a comedy club, guess what? They're going to be doing stand-up at some point. This is something we all know. This is just something, you love stand-up comedy and you want to do it and you're going to do it. So I implore you. And now this can happen with research as well, I do believe, because phenomena will start interacting with you as soon as you start like deep diving and really researching something. And there's people out there who know this all too well. It will, look into it. It looks back into you, right? Go out and play with it. It will come and play with you, kind of thing, right? So now some of that we talked about last week. You have to, what is it? The infectious agent model that we were talking about at Skinwalker Ranch also happens other places. Now, but I implore you, rather recklessly, I suppose, considering all the evidence that would indicate that going to extremely paranormal places can, in fact, have, I guess, side effects or infections or, residual effects on the people who go there and the people close to them and around them in their general vicinity of their social circle or family circle. Now, okay, so having said that, I don't think you have to go do this. But what I would suggest as far as, how about I just tell you my own personal experience? Now I'm worried that I'm going to be encouraging someone to do something that maybe they don't want to do. And that's not what this is about. And that's not what I've ever been about in anything I've ever done. So there is something about a long-term paranormal investigation that just hits different, as the kids would say. It is different. And I'm not saying it's better. I'm saying you have the opportunity for a deeper, potentially more rich expansion of understanding, and most assuredly exponential opportunity for interaction with a specific phenomena when you are familiar to it. Now you can see this in a microcosm way. You hear squatters talk about this all the time, or people who, cryptozoologists, etc. They'll go into, or just even zoologists. You go into the environment, you become part of the environment. Now the things that are in that environment naturally will eventually become curious about you and start to trust you a little bit because you're not in there just burning everything down, right? So consider that it's not a law of nature. Consider that characteristic, or that habitual, that natural habit of something that has its own awareness in a specific environment. Consider that with animals, right? I would say that we can make that leap here, right? With paranormal phenomena to a certain degree. So when you do a long-term investigation, it's not like you show up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock p.m., unpack your bags, do the thing, have a couple breaks for foods and, talk about some stuff and blah, 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 and then you're gone at 4 a.m, right? Which are great nights and a ton of fun. Highly recommend doing those. But if you do more of a longitudinal study, I can't spell that word right now. If I was forced to, maybe I would be able to. So don't put me to it. I will just say that it's like urban sprawl. These things, it starts as one thing and it starts becoming all of these other things. And it becomes so diverse, it becomes so complicated, it becomes so rich, it becomes so deep that it's almost all consuming. into in a certain way. Now, you throw in a couple different of those, start doing 3 of those simultaneously. And then what you have is, like, for example, let me just give you what I'm dealing with here. And I don't mean what I'm dealing with here, but just let me lay it out, what I'm doing, and specifically why I'm saying this. The Bridge is a paranormal investigation I started at Poasttown Elementary School in 2021 before the taping of my comedy special, The Supernatural. We spent 2 days, 2 nights at Poasttown School, notoriously, famously haunted. Now, that was my first real proper investigation, that I really dove in deep and committed myself for more than just going somewhere for a night. Right at a haunted location since my 2019 experience, where I was terrified in Florida. Now that turned into, in the moment, into communication with what I believe to be was some kind of intelligence outside of the school that was alien intelligence from a specific star system that later due to reading books and research and, doing the unpacking of the things that happened during that time period, I start making connections to other things. So we go back, right? And then you go back and you build upon the previous investigation and you hope to move the conversation forward. And that's what I did. And so I went back a few times. And then I had the realization with Matthew Jackson that I don't need to be at Poasttown for this investigation to continue anymore. So we make a trip to Mount Shasta. And that was in May of 2023, last year. Eric Connor, myself, and my buddy Alex Mangan, brilliant filmmaker, very funny guy, also did stand-up comedy. The 3 of us go to Mount Shasta for like 3 days, 3 nights, or whatever it was. And bonkers things happen, right? And weird stuff happens. And it expands into other directions that we're not aware of. And it deepens my love for Mount Shasta. Now, that's one investigation. Cut to Florida. This will be the 3rd trip coming up in October. We are investigating at the behest and on the behalf of the homeowners to try to help them understand what is happening at their property, right? And it's very complicated. There's lots of things going on. You know about a lot of them if you listen to this show a lot. And we are going back with an even bigger, more in-depth tools and crazy equipment this time. I mean, we're going to have drones. We're going to have, Dr. Jeff is going to be there. Dr. Rebecca Foster is going to be there. It's getting bonkers. It's going to be great. And this thing is just building out. And we are accumulating some information along the way, obviously. And that is the whole purpose of that investigation, is to try to come up with some answers for the people who live there and that have been experiencing all of this for so long. Now, I am also documenting all of this as well. And that's a huge project and undertaking that'll happen probably after the book. I can probably start working on that sometime next year, but that is going to be a beast of a project. But it'll be a passion project that I can't wait to dig my teeth into, right? Now, because there's so much footage, we're talking about 3 weeks worth of trips, plus the 2019 trip. Anyway, that's the second investigation, right? All kinds of phenomena. Everything you could think of under the sun, it's part of that one. Third one is FITS, Investigation at Mutilation Ranch, the ranch in outside of Trinidad, Colorado, where there are unexplainable cattle mutilations. Now there's also OMA communication. The spirit of a missing woman is also involved in that investigation. So you've got FITS, which are the grays, the tall grays, OMA, Sasquatch, and a missing woman, an open cold case of a missing woman. Now, all of these, we're getting messages about different investigations while we're on the other ones here. Specifically me, Matt, Eric, we're getting messages about a different investigation. We're getting, I will be at Poasttown and we'll get a message about Colorado. We'll be in Colorado Well, we haven't been to Colorado since last January, but we're probably headed there in a couple weeks. But we'll be in Florida and we'll get messages about Colorado, right? Or Matthew will be we're in Indiana doing something completely different and we're getting messages about Colorado or Florida. We're in Florida getting messages about, post out. It's bonkers. And they're happening with no linear framework, which, to me, imagine if I took on a fourth investigation. My life would be complete chaos, right? So is there a difference between the one night pop-up investigation at a place with a group of friends and a long-term investigation that is deep in research and also revisiting the location? It doesn't have to be 4 months later. It could be a year later, right? Is it something that occupies space in your mind and that you're actively, even though sometimes it feels passive, actively still working on? Is there a mystery trying to be unlocked specific to a place that you will go back to again? That qualifies as a long-term investigation, a longitudinal. Okay, so that counts. And I implore you, if you have it in you and you feel good and safe about doing so, I can't tell you how exciting that can be. Now, it's just like everything else. It's like a baseball season. Every once in a while you'll get tired of it and you gotta watch something else, right? You gotta have other things happening in your life, right? I know I do. But then when it comes back and it hits you. It hits. And more specifically, what makes it hit is when you think you've got a clue and you think you just might be closer to unlocking the mystery, or at the very least, understanding what might be happening in a better way. That will get you jazzed. Now, we have the Florida investigation melting into the Colorado investigation in I don't want to say a profound way, but now people who weren't even aware of it, like, I can't even get into it, but it involves Dr. Foster, and there's been things happening, and there's been messages received, and it's been insane. Because the insane part is when people who don't have an understanding or knowledge of an investigation that's ongoing, someone who comes to it cold and isn't even trying to talk about it, let alone be aware of it, starts giving information about something, and they don't even realize what it's about or where it's about or anything like that. And this has happened multiple times with the Colorado investigation with different people who have psychic gifts. And it's just bonkers. And it does nothing but fuel the fire. I hope you enjoyed this third year bonus. This is Ryan Singer. I will be at Go Bananas Comedy Club in Cincinnati, Ohio, Labor Day weekend. Then I'll be at Wiley's Comedy Club September 7th for the last show ever at that building. It's a sad, sad day, as my home, sweet, sweet home, my home, sweet comedy home, is closing its doors forever. That show sold out in under a minute. I can't wait. I'll probably never be more drunk in my life by the time the sun comes up that next day. Oh my God, I'm going to cry. I love you. I hope you love yourself. I hope to see you at a live show sometime. If not, I'll see you at the watering hole on the astral plane.